Howdy, everyone.
Hey guys, how's it going?
How's it going tonight? We've got Danny Boyd, LB Bruin 79. That's Vince.
I see Captain Dude.
They were here early. Don and Wendy English. Captain Do. Captain Do, he kind of lurks around early. They were here early.
Cool.
My phone decided to be loud. I just got assaulted by an NBC ad, and I have no idea why. That was obnoxious. Sorry about that. I don't know what that was. Now it's going to echo until it cuts off.
I guess.
All right. This is what happens when you do live, right? If I was doing a pre-recorded video, I could just snip that out. Not here. All right. Mopar Black Knight. Greg McDonald. All right. Got a good crew here. These are good regulars. Oh, and Lunar Outlaw Garage. He's here. Thank you, Lunar. In the first place.
That's right. I was going to try to catch Ryan and you guys Saturday night on this channel.
John, do you have a YouTube browser open?
No, I do not.
Okay. I don't know why this thing is reverbing. It should not be. My phone.
Unless my wife has been too close in the house.
Yeah. Hey, Andy Wood, Unity Motorsports Garage. Yeah, he's not always early. He just has nothing else to do at night. Well, join the club.
Hang on just a second.
Yeah, I think you've got a YouTube browser open. Like both YouTube and a StreamYard. You can close the YouTube. It would cut that reverb.
Okay, let's see if that fixed it.
All right. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Second. I mean, my wife was in another bedroom watching this, but
yeah, if it's picking up you on her mic, then it will. But yeah, I'm glad the crowd that's here. This is cool. Richard's World, William Sanders, and that bizarre thumbnail of his looks like a sandwich. That's excellent. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, Greg McDonald says he has R2D2 in the background. Well, it's usually me. I'm usually the one that does that, but I'm looking right now and I'm making triple sure. Nothing here. I'm usually the one that does that. Let me make sure I don't have anything else over. I do not. So, but yeah, I'm glad to have you here. This is possibly the first time I've ever had what you call a Chevrolet guy on my stream.
Oh, well, I feel honored to be the first Chevy guy.
But that's the thing is, I consider you a guy of philosophy, not a Chevrolet guy per se.
Exactly.
A guy that has the right philosophy with budget building. And I think that's where it's at.
Right, and I mean, Chevrolet is my wheelhouse, but I like all the makes models. I'm not a hater of any of them, except for maybe Kia.
I like it all. I mean, I enjoy building anything, but Mopar is my car of choice. But I like it all. I really, when I first saw that Nova of yours, I mean, that thing looked rough, and you laid out a budget and a plan and a time frame, and I said that's where it's at.
Yeah. And I would have gone with the frame, I would have been a little better, but I started having some mental issues, like kind of cut back on it.
Mopar Den is here. We've got some pretty nasty feedback coming through, and I suspect it might be on your side. You want to jump out of the studio and come back in? See if that It's picking up some feedback, and it looks like I've got everything closed on this side.
I've got everything here closed, so
everything in the StreamYard.
All right, yeah, let me leave and I'll come right back in.
How about your phone?
It's off.
Okay. That's the strangest thing because I'm making sure I don't have any other windows of anything open.
Yeah. Let me leave studio and I'll be right back.
My phone, I literally powered it off. Yeah, I'll let you right back in. We'll just have to make this thing. Okay, so it's definitely coming from John's End. Yeah, there's a browser hiding closed. So there's a browser hiding open somewhere. We'll get him right back in. Anyway, thank you guys for coming out. This is the kind of tech stuff that we do. We build cars. We're not like broadcast professionals. We're car builders. So his cell phones, yeah, indeed. Lunar Outlaws Garage is saying you've done an LS swap, so you work almost. Sure, I agree with it. Hey, I like that thing runs. That's a running car. It really is. It kind of, honestly, it kind of set the bar for the other stuff that I build because it screams. It does. Well, not a 4.7. I'm going to do something with that 4.7. Barrow's Garage in the house. We will be looking for John here shortly. So for those of you just getting on, John Gillman, Shop 209, he's in the house. We got a little tech problem, so he is coming back in, checking his browsers, and we'll let him in again right now. Four seven and a Prowler. Danny boy, you do that and tell us how it works.
Hey, is that better?
Yep, I can hear you and I can see you.
I had to close it. I didn't find anything open, but I closed everything out and rebooted, and it came back up. So.
Yeah, there was something hiding in the background because as soon as you clicked out, it went away. So they got to watch a live troubleshoot, but it all works out. It's all good. Captain Do, nice stickers on the wall. Yeah, these are my friends. These are my friends on YouTube. Oh, you can't shoot. You can't. Wait a minute. I can fix it. This is what they're talking about in these things. They can see them, but on that view, you can't. So if there's a Shop 209 decal, if you do decals, you're more than welcome to have one hanging here.
I'm going to have some made up. Absolutely.
If you do it, I'd love to have one for my wall. Oh, I've got that. And then also I've got this. This is for these people who say one of these days forever and never do anything. That's for them.
Right. That's
Doing
right.
is greater than dreaming.
You know, and that's the thing. I watched like Roadkill for years, and then finally my wife bought me a GoPro, and she said, "Stop watching it, start doing it."
No kidding.
And that's kind of how I started my channel. So,
I'm telling you, without question, I would rather watch Shop 209 than Roadkill any day because I like reality. I like real building, real cars, real budgets, real people.
Right. And I mean, you know, I started watching all kinds of YouTube videos, different channels and stuff like that. And that's how I came across Brian's channel, Uncle Tony, all the guys. I came across all those trying to find other channels to watch. And after watching all those channels, I started my channel in November. Really, I created the channel, I guess, early 19, but I didn't post my first real video until November of 2019. And got a lot of hate, a ton of hate. Well, I got a lot of love, but a ton of hate because I plastic dipped a Nova. I sprayed plastic dip on a Nova. And it turned out really good. But like I said, you know, that's just muscle car guys. They don't like plastic dip apparently. So
there are people in this world who watch YouTube that could have hatred for finding $100 bill on the sidewalk. They would find something to hate about that.
That's right. And I mean, look, I've been very fortunate. I have had very few haters. Sometimes people will comment on something in the video, and I just either ignore the comment or I kill them with kindness. So,
well, you know. It's kind of funny. So you see just Mopar Joe in the comments over here. Joe is one of those really nice diplomatic guys, and he'll answer real diplomatically, but he might not admit it, but he likes it when I go over there and smack his trolls around a little bit because I don't care. You know, I try to treat people like they deserve to be treated, good or bad.
That's right. And I haven't had any on any of my live streams. I haven't had any issues, but on every once in a while on a video you post up, you'll get a comment. Somebody doesn't like something, and you know, just 99.9% of the comments are great. And every once in a while you get some guy that wants to push a button and it doesn't work. So
So I have a handful of, not many at all, where I see the most of them. I'm moderator on Uncle Tony's Garage, and over there he has a regular troll. Not only does he have a collection of trolls, their leader is a channel, Brian Cabral. He's their leader. And so
Oh,
they all go over there and hate on Tony together on that channel. Well, that's like next level troll.
and see, I've been on some of his live streams watching, and yeah, I've seen some of the hate. I'm like, you like this guy so much. I mean, you hate him, but
Yeah.
you're there, you know. So,
And they're the
yeah.
biggest fans. They don't miss a video. They don't miss a minute because there might be something in there they want to hate.
I'm not going to hate on anybody. I've got too many holes in my life or in my
Yeah.
videos to hate on anybody else.
No, it's the content creators. They're never the problem, because anybody who's actually out there making content and risking his or her ego to make
That's right.
content for YouTube, they're never the problem because they know how hard it is.
That's right. And
It's
I mean,
always the person with no videos that's doing it.
and that's right. I mean, I ask people, hey, well, let me see some of your videos, and let me see some of your videos to show me how I'm doing it wrong.
Right.
And
they're never
back
really.
and they don't have any. Yeah.
Well, if you listen to people on the sideline, you will wind up there with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
But it is interesting. They're always entertaining. There's one, I don't mind calling them out by their username, Simon Cochran. And it's probably a fake name. Most of them don't use their real names. And most of them have several accounts. Well, anyway, this Simon Cochran name, every comment is some kind of Debbie Downer hating on something comment. Every comment. I'm thinking, he knows before this 15-minute video, he's going to watch the whole thing. And he knows he's going to hate it before he watches it. He just thinks, I got to watch this to know exactly how to craft my comment of how I hated the video that I knew I was going to hate before I watched.
That's right.
What a life.
I mean, that's the thing. It's one of those things where, somebody will post something, well, you should have done this. I don't believe that. Or, somebody the other day, I did a video rebuilding some control arms. And one of the guys, he'd commented on another video where I said I talked too much. And that's fine. That video, I did talk a lot, and then this time he commented on my little junky work table that I work on. And, it's a junky work table. I'm well aware of it. It fell apart twice on me while I was doing it. I just edited that out of the video. But, I grew up working on cars in a dirt driveway. So I think the upgrade is the junky work table. I'm pretty okay with it.
Well, the hilarious part of it is they never have any comment. They never risk their ego. They're never doing anything.
Right.
But you can't please all the people, and it doesn't bother me a bit. I had a guy who I like. He's a friend of mine, and he said that my transmission video, and he said this to me. He wasn't talking out of school, but he said my transmission video put him to sleep because it was just so technical and detailed. I said, well, okay, but that video is for those people who want to know how the spool valves work in the valve body and how the planetaries interact and all that. It was not a video on how to take a snap ring out or compress a spring in a drum. That's a different kind of video.
Right.
So some videos just can't be for everybody.
That's right. And see, I've done a lot of videos where I went into a lot of detail, and those videos actually perform way worse than my videos where I don't go into a lot of detail as far as my YouTube ethics.
Yeah.
And, I have more requests as far as people commenting. They want the detail. So you kind of I can make an hour-long video. Like I did one where I built 307 Chevrolet, which is, the most hated motor alive, apparently. And I went into a lot of detail on what I do to build it. And even after editing a lot of it out, it's still in over an hour. And,
right.
And then you do another video where you just strap the pistons in and you don't talk a lot, do a montage. And then people, can you show me more of that? I'm like, watch the other video. But, it's one of those things where they didn't know I had the other video. So, sometimes you don't know which direction to go. I'm like you. They want to see one thing. They comment, they want to see one thing, and then they do the other. But as long as they're watching, I'm okay with it.
Well, the only direction to really go is to keep making content, keep doing your thing, and eventually you'll have, a big network. And what'll happen is people will go back and watch those underperforming videos later.
That's right.
So, for example, I did a live stream in April, and it did well. It got 1,000 views overall. But I noticed about a week ago, in one day, it got 500 views out of the blue. And it was because new subscribers must have triggered the YouTube analytics, and all of a sudden it got a bunch of suggestions and a bunch of views. So sometimes these more obscure videos will get popular later, just out of the blue.
That's right. And
Here-
Lunar
Here's,
Outlaw, I'm still working on that budget Nova. I've
here's the comment of the night. Unfinished project. He's famous for, he's just words cannot express his deep thoughts sometimes. But anyway, yeah, we just wanted to get the housekeeping with the trolls out of the way. Yeah, Joe. Yeah, I give him a good slap and he loves it.
there you go.
But no, we got some good commenters here, and we'll fish around a little bit. And I think one I really liked was, if I can find it, some of them was asking you, what you're working on right now. And I think I'm loving the stuff that you're doing.
Yep.
One Bad AMX is asking, so what's your favorite cars to build?
Well, my thing is 68 to 74 Novas. And right now I'm working on a 69. It's a budget build 69 Nova. And at the beginning of October, I bought this car several months ago. I bought 5 Novas at once, and I have a video on that. I haul all these things to storage into my house, and made my wife really happy. But I hauled all these cars to my house. I had a 69, and I was like, well, it's got some potential. It was sold parts car. I paid $400 for it. And I was like, I really want to do a budget build video where I build a car for about $5,000.
That's a real world budget that you have there, because the people that want to make something run for $1,000, that's a fun little challenge, and then the people that spend some untold amount of money, but 5,000 is a real attainable number. I like that number.
Right, I picked 5,000 for a couple of reasons. Number one, if the future of the hobby depends on the younger people doing this. All right. So if someone's 20 years old, 18, 20 years old, even 16 years old, a realistic budget for a first car, whether it be a Honda or whatever, is $2,500 to $5,000.
Yeah.
I mean, most parents would, unless you're Richie Rich, most parents are going to buy you $5,000 or less worth of car. And, so I figured $5,000 would be a good price point to try to get that to where someone has that all in. And
yeah.
I'm going to go over that budget. I'm going to be, and mainly because I bought an engine from a subscriber who, it was still a fantastic deal. I'm not upset about it at all, but it had been sitting on a stand and it had been running fine when he pulled it out, but it had some moisture in the cylinders. So I had to take it apart. And then while I was taking it apart, me being me, I found a couple other things that, knowing I'm going to sell this car, I could have just put it all back together after I cleaned the cylinders up and ran it, and it would have been fine. But knowing I'm going to sell the car, I didn't want to stick anybody else with any problems.
Right.
So I went over budget because I bought a rotating assembly. But other than that, I would have been within my budget.
Now, I was reading on one of your videos that people were complaining that you spent money, you allocated budget money toward the paint.
Well, I mean, so I figured I was going to have a few $100s in primer or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that's not budget. I'm like, well, that's what I want to do with it, is I want to throw some primer on it, get it all one color. I like the ratty look, but I'm also, not everybody, more people like primer than like the ratty look. So I had kind of allocated a little bit in there for maybe a super budget paint job or just primer.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I also figured in there that I would have, because I've got a ton of cars and parts around the house, I figured there'd be plenty of things that I would say, if I want to do it for $5,000, well, if I've already got a rear end I can use, I'll find a rear end for sale. And if I find one for $150, I'll deduct that from my budget and then use the one I've got to keep my out-of-pocket expense down, but it still counts against my budget. And I've bought almost everything out of pocket. So,
well, even if every part of the recipe isn't applicable to some viewers, hopefully they'll at least see there's a lot of value in this build to what they're doing.
Right.
And I think it's great because it's all about the journey, and every car is different. Every car needs different things, but I love that approach. I thought it was cool. So you got into it and you said, okay, now maybe I need to allocate a little more to this because that's a very real part of project cars. That's Sometimes you go in thinking I'm going to spend this much on an engine, this much on paint, this much on interior, this much on chassis, this much on wiring. Then you get into it elbows deep and realize, wow, I'm not going to spend quite as much on this. I'm going to spend 3 times as much on that. And your project's doing that.
And that's exactly what I had planned. Was I was going to spend, you know, 1,000 on each section, 1,000 on my drivetrain, 1,000 on interior, 1,000 on suspension. You know, I had it broken up into, you know, like that into sections, and then whatever I saved on one, I could put into another one.
Yeah.
And it kind of worked out that way, but not great.
Well, but you know, that's real world.
Right.
That's real world. And so something I'm noticing kind of from the YouTube world in general, car building, and Tony's elbows deep in this problem himself.
Right.
The real world of doing this, the real time frame, the real budget, the real challenges in real time, a lot of viewers don't get it because they're so used to the last 20 plus years of car building on television. That's right. Where the car always gets done in 22 minutes.
Yeah.
Because the car's always completely done before they go back a year and a half and grab all that footage and put it together.
Yep.
And show you the finished product in an hour.
Right. And one thing I
YouTube
thought about
won't let us do that.
Right. One thing I thought about doing was working on a car, building it in the meantime of doing other stuff, putting out smaller videos, doing one big video, having the whole build done, edited, and up before anybody ever knew I was working on the project. And, you know, this one, but that's not as fun, you know.
I've thought about that. That it's so tempting, but it just never plays out that way for me.
Well, it takes me too long to build a car. Frankenova was going to be something I was going to build in about 3 months. And 2 years later, you know, I finished it up, and now I'm just waiting for the drag strip to be open on a Friday night that I can get there or not be raining. So,
well, yeah, and that's another thing too. I mean, so that Roadrunner I pulled out of the field.
Right.
I was going to drop that video around the first of the year, so that when that video came out, I was already going to be working on an engine for it, transmission for it, spring will break. You know, I didn't want to have any dead time of people saying, "So what about the Roadrunner? What about the Roadrunner? What are you doing on the Roadrunner?"
Right.
But then I had some events, you know, say, you know what, I probably ought to drop this video now. Yeah. But it still doesn't mean I'm ready to get into it. I mean, I still haven't committed to any engine for it yet. So it's a challenge. Now, that's not a challenge you have with network TV.
That's right. And just like there's another one, my buddy Craig has that Dart. I was going to build the 307 to race against his 318. We figured the 307 Chevy against the 318 Dart would be a good matchup. And I pulled a 69 Nova out of the weeds that I've had for a while. And I was like, okay, well, this thing was rusty. The quarter panels were junk. The roof skin was junk. And it had a roll cage in it already that was way more dangerous than not having a roll cage. It was terrible. And I was like, I'm going to throw this together with a 307 in it, and we'll go do a little grudge race. Well, I got a lot of hits from that video. But as soon as I was like, okay, I'm going to just throw some quarters on this thing, well, then it became a roof skin, and then it became a full-blown restoration. And now people are asking, where's the grudge race? And, you know, Craig started painting the Dart, and his wife had a baby. So, you know, it got delayed, and now I feel like a heel because I didn't get it all done, but we're going to get there.
Yeah, it kind of goes that way. I don't know exactly where this Roadrunner is going to go. Now, my Dart Sport, I know exactly where it's going to go. I'm going to make a period correct, you know, car, because the car raced ever since it was just a few years old. It was a dedicated drag car. That's what I'm going to make it again. So it's a pure purpose. The car is going to look like it rolled off the trailer in the early 80s, ready to run.
Are you going to use some vintage feed parts on it?
A lot of them. They're going to be, like, for instance, electric water pumps are cheap and easy now, but they didn't have them back then. So it'll have the old Moroso drive, right?
That's right.
Stuff like that. So a lot of the modern parts are better, but I'm going to make it look very period correct. I'm going to use probably a wind, you know, tunnel ram on it and that kind of thing. Yeah. Real quick, I want to thank Mopar Den for his super chat. Really appreciate him. He literally helps me keep the lights on. My studio lighting in here is thanks to Mopar Den. One Bad AMX asks a good question. Where are you guys located? He says he's a first-time viewer. I'm in Christiansburg, Virginia. So I'm in the southwestern part of Virginia, probably, you know, 70 miles north of North Carolina and about 100 miles from Tennessee.
All right. I am in Perry, Georgia. I'm about 70 or 80 miles south of Atlanta.
Okay.
Just below me.
Yep. Yeah, I was in Atlanta yesterday, or I was near Atlanta yesterday, but I was north.
Well, you were in Helen. I saw something where you were in Helen, right?
Yeah, I was in Helen. I was in Helen on Saturday. I was in Tequila before and after that. Yeah,
Okay.
so we have a real. So you haven't necessarily seen a lot of these viewers on my channel, but we
Right.
have some really great people in here. Just a couple caught my eye. So Just Mopar Joe. He's
Right.
one of the best Mopar channels in all of YouTube.
I have to
We've got
check him
Mike
out.
Iben here. Mike Iben is the torque converter whisperer. He builds
Okay.
torque converters for a living. What a neat job that is, right?
Cool.
So he's going to build a custom converter for my Dart Sport when I get to that point. Wild Rose Garage, that's like the best small channel. He's 200 and some subs, close to 300 subs, but the guy's got all kinds of neat stuff going and knowledge. And great channel. But I like a lot of these guys that get out and do it. We have Rude Mopar Dude, who is super polite, but he has the name Rude Mopar Dude just to throw people. But we have a great crowd. Mopar Den, super nice guy. He and I combed the swap meet a little bit at Carlisle. He's cool. He has nicer looking cars. He does not identify with my stuff I pull out of a field. We got Dust Devil Garage, Brian.
Cool, man.
Oh, that's the boss commenting for Brian. That's the wife, I'm assuming.
Gotcha.
Kurt Zimmerman. But we have a great community here. So, we love having you on the stream. But if you want to chat with these guys on another live on this channel, you're welcome to. This is a great community.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the 307, Kurt, the 307 ran good. I had it on a test stand still because I turned the car I was putting it in turned into a full-blown build, but it runs great. And I've got another body I'm going to stick it in so I can have my road race with my buddy with the car. And hopefully I'll beat on that 318, but we don't know. We're both going to try to go to the next Jake's Drag Strip, the Brandex versus. We're going to try to go to that. So
that was a great little event. I went to the 318 Fest in May. That was so much fun.
Oh yeah, it looked like it was. I watched some videos on it online, but I didn't really get a chance to go.
I didn't think that track was going to hook as well as it did. I went up and walked the track surface, and wow, the track came around. Great people, great spectators, no trouble. It was a fun event, fun day. So speaking of the 307, because see, I'm not a Chevy guy. I'm not fluid in those. Danny Boyd is saying that 307 has the 283 stroke. So in the Chevrolet small block hierarchy of cubic inches, what makes what? What has common bores and what has common strokes?
Okay, so your 350s and your 327s have a 4-inch bore. Those are the same bore. They have a different stroke. Your 283 and your 307 have a 3.875 bore. And the 283 has a 3-inch stroke. And then your 307 has a 3.25 stroke, which is basically, it's a 283 block with a 327 crankshaft.
Okay.
Now, also the 302 motor for the Trans Am motors that Chevrolet built, those were 4-inch bore with a 283 crank. So if you take a 350 block with a 283 crank, you get, or a 327 block, either one, with a 283 crank, you get a 302.
Huh.
And then if you take a 283 with a 327 crank, you get the 307. And then your 400 small block basically had a 4 1/8 inch bore and a 3.75 stroke.
Now, why is the 400 less common in performance applications? It might not be now, but at least it was for a long time. Is just because there aren't as many of them, or is there a good reason for that?
Right. They built a ton of them, but nowhere near as many as the 350. They came in full-size cars and some trucks. And they were mainly just for torque, cubic inches. They didn't build them as long. They're only built, I think from 71 to 78. I can't remember on that, but roughly 71 to 78. So they built them for a few years. From the factory, I don't remember. A lot of people say they had overheating problems, but I don't think they really did. It was more of they weren't that popular until really the mid to late 80s. People started buying them mainly with the crankshafts so they could build a 383. The 400s themselves still weren't that popular. And
I remember that, and I never could figure that out. I wondered if there was something inherently weak about the 400, why they were doing that.
I mean, really, just I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, the cylinders they were probably a little more prone to cracking, And I remember a buddy of mine, a guy was the guy that got me into Novas, a guy that was dating my older sister. I remember he bought 400s for $200, and this is in probably 87 or 88. And all he did was take the crankshaft out of them and threw blocks away.
Huh.
Because, everybody wanted to build a 383.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. The 360 Chrysler took a long time to become popular. I know that, of course, back when 340s were obtainable, that's what people would run.
Yep.
And people would just throw away 318s. Then 360s, oh, that's a truck engine.
That's right.
Once the 340s were all gone, okay, and that's been a while now,
yeah,
people started revisiting this 318 thing. Then you had the cheap stroker cranks came out, and that kind of changed things. Yep. And then now the 360, people are looking at it for what it is. It's basically just a mild stroker motor.
That's right.
It's a great place to start.
Absolutely. Captain, do the correct ignition timing. That's a BS question because the 327 was not available in the 56 Bel Air. It wasn't available in 1962. And then the correct ignition time would have been 4 degrees before top dead center.
Exactly. I remember that. I love that movie.
But and a lot of the things, the 307, the reason I like that, my first 71 Nova had a 307 in it, and it was a ton of fun. It was 200 horsepower, from the factory, and it ran great. And they don't make any aftermarket parts for them as far as like decent pistons. They make stock pistons, and that's it. Other than that, it's a better motor than the 305. It's got a bigger bore than the 305. So it probably flows better, and you can put bigger valves on it than you can a 305. But they never made a performance version of the 307, so it really gets no love. And honestly, it's more expensive to build a 307 than it is a 350, other than buying the core. But you can find a 307 thrown away on the side of the road if you try hard enough. And then 350 is a little bit more expensive, but the 350 rebuild kits are much cheaper than a 307 kit.
Huh. Why do people, and again, I'm not a Chevrolet guy, so I watch this stuff kind of from a neutral hill. Why do people hate 305s? What is it with that?
Because all of the crappy years of performance for Chevrolet, 305 was the base engine. So every crappy Camaro and Nova from the mid 70s all the way up to about 87.
No kidding.
Most of them were 305s. And it's they say the small bore is the problem, but really it's the cylinder head choice. Because all of the LS stuff now that runs amazing, the LS stuff has a smaller bore than a lot of the 305 stuff.
What is the bore on the 305?
3.76, I think.
That puts it right between a 273 and a 318 Mopar.
Right.
So it's just a small block. I just wondered if there was anything inherently bad about them or just people with no imagination.
I mean, a little bit of both. I mean, it's the people that tell you to put a 9-inch Ford in it because they don't want to have to work on a 8.5 or 8 3/4 or whatever.
Yeah, but see, they don't realize that 9-inch Ford eats up a ton of power because of that low pinion. I mean, they're really strong, but they scrub off so much power.
I want to say one of the magazines did an article on the parasitic loss of rear ends, and I think a Chrysler 8 3/4 was the lowest drag parasitic loss of any rear end that they tested.
Wow.
And I think they tested 10 bolt, 12 bolt, the 9-inch, a Dana 60. I think they tested all of it. And I think the best one was the 8 3/4 Mopar.
They're great. 8 3/4 takes more power. It may have less parasitic drag, but it takes more power to turn that, overall than a small 7 1/4 or something. But those will break. So it's all it depends on what you're doing with it.
Well, I think they tested only the rear ends that could take a deep.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Joe said we pulled a 400 from a Chevy van and traded it for a 65 Power Wagon. 307s would run even with a 2-barrel. But we're starting to revisit a lot of these engines now. And I think it's a good thing because people are having to learn how to make things run and work. Like, for instance, this at Jake's Dragway, we went to 318 Fest. Could you imagine 20 or 30 years ago having a festival dedicated to a 318?
Not at
Those
all.
people would have said that's insane. Why do we
That's
want to go
right.
see that?
Well, honestly, 15 years ago, can you imagine somebody paying $5,000 for a Chevy Nova?
No,
or a Duster.
If somebody paid $5,000 for one of those Novas back then, I would have said, "Did you get it from a museum?" I couldn't imagine.
Exactly.
And it's worth it. And it's worth it. You think about it. If you look at 20 years ago, and you think 20 years from now, when a regular passenger car costs $100,000 and you can't work on it at all without a computer,
That's right.
that $5,000 is a bargain.
That's right. And when I got my first Nova in '92, I got my first '71 Nova. My dad paid $800 for it. It was an all original 78,000 mile car, and the taillight panel was rusted out. That was it. Everything was in good shape. Now, the reason he bought that for me was he's like, look, you need something you're going to be able to work on because you can't afford to pay anybody to fix this thing. So you need something that you can afford to work on and that you can learn to work on. So, that's what I got. I mean, I already liked Novas anyway, but, that was his reasoning behind buying me that. It wasn't because it was a hot rod. It was because it was cheap. It was, it was an amount of money I could pay him back, and I had to, and it was something that I could work on without, having to hook up a laptop or, a scanner or something.
These commenters have the best names. We have Max Wedge, Dick Dastardly Rusnick. Tell me that's not one of the greatest YouTube usernames ever.
That is pretty cool.
Part of, to me, what's important with a car, and again, I'm just like this. I like to be able to control my destiny over the entire car. I don't like having a part of it that there's nothing I can do anything about. So, for example, I went to school and I learned how to work on modern fuel injection and emissions and all that stuff. But like in Hondas, they have an anti-theft computer called the immobilizer.
Right.
Well, it's an anti-theft part. So you can't just get that over the counter. They have to program it at the dealer with proprietary software. Well, when that thing goes bad, you can't fix it. I mean, you could wire around it. There's tutorials how to do that. But the fact of the matter is there's a computer piece with proprietary software the dealer has to program, and you can't do anything about it. I don't like having those things on my car. I like to be able to control the entire destiny of my car and not have something that somebody else can decide if they will fix or not.
That's right.
That's just me.
Well, we had a '93 Pontiac Bonneville. Me and my wife first got married, and that was a supercharged, the SSEI, supercharged '93 Bonneville. And it had a heads-up display. I mean, the whole dashboard looked like Darth Vader's bathroom. I mean, it was fancy. And the body control module went out. And it was a $300 part in '97 or '98 when it went out. And you had to take the back bumper off the car. I mean, not really, but it was underneath the dash up against the firewall, and everything went through it. The radio, the headlights, the anti-theft. It had a little chip in the key. All of that went through the body control module.
Yep.
And when that thing went bad, nothing worked on the car.
Yep.
And you had to put the car in half to get it out. And then it was $400 for the part.
Right.
And that stuff just bugs me.
No, I don't like anything like that. I mean, I was okay with keeping an extra ignition module in the glove box or points, whichever. That's the funny thing. People don't want points because they say, well, those go bad. You have to keep an extra one in the glove box. Well, anybody that's smart keeps an extra ignition module in the glove box too, because those go bad as much as points.
Right. The GM modules are extremely reliable. I keep an extra one in my car.
Of course. It's just So here's a good question. And it's not necessarily a question, it's a statement, but it leads to a question. Crazy Coffee says low power, low compression smog engines. So I'll just throw something out there. I remember when people didn't want anything to do with a 400 Mopar. Right. They're like, oh, that's a smog era engine. You know what I mean? They just chuck it. Now people say, hey, that 400 has an enormous amount of potential. So what are your thoughts on people revisiting some of these supposedly low power, low compression smog engines and doing great things with them?
Well, I think it's all about information. So, when me and you were teenagers back in the 80s and 90s, our source was not YouTube. Our source was Car Magazine.
That's right.
Car Magazine's pretty much what I learned, other than my dad and working as a mechanic at a shop for a few years. Car Magazine is where I learned anything. So what they publish is what they wanted you to sell because advertisers were doing, it's a business just like everything else. And they forwarded that stuff. So you had people being swayed by, nobody wanted it because it was a smog engine, because someone else told them it was a smog engine,
Right.
and it had potential. Well, now you've got people that are daring to build a smog engine, and other people are seeing that you can actually get results from it. There's more information available now. There's more technology for camshafts, more aftermarket support, and honestly, people can find more information on the engine. You'll still find 5,000 people that tell you not to build a 400 Mopar or a 307 Chevrolet, but you also find 7 or 8 people who did it and had really good results. And
I'd rather build a 400 than a 440.
Yeah, I'd rather do a 307 than a 283 or a 327. But that's just I like being different sometimes.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of these things people are now revisiting that they would never have thought of. Like,
absolutely.
One thing I think is going to be, and again, I don't know, I'm not a Ford guy. The Ford people here can tell me, but the Cleveland has been very popular for a long time. The Cleveland managed to make its mark a long time ago. My goodness, I got behind on comments. The Cleveland managed to make its mark a long time ago, but the 400 modified is basically a tall deck Cleveland.
That's right.
Well, with all this cylinder head innovation, I don't know why in the world we're not going to see people doing stuff with 400M. I just think that's one of those engines that people would have thrown away that now they're going to say, wow, there was so little difference that we actually can build a much bigger inch engine and still get those same heads. I think we're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff revisited in the future.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not sure we're going to have a whole bunch of 403 Oldsmobile engines being built,
no.
But I think the biggest problem with that is the blocks were real weak. But I'm like you, I think a lot of this stuff is going to get revisited. A lot of it is.
Yeah, we won't see a lot of 301 Pontiacs.
No, not at all. Not 307 automobiles, it's just not going to happen. And there's a lot of those engines, I think, that won't get any kind of resurgence at all. But I think, like you, I think a lot of this stuff, this small-gear stuff, the engine's just like the small-gear cars. Your Dodge Aspens, your later model, I'm not sure what body that is on the, what's the later model Road Runners and stuff they had?
They were F bodies. They were built on the Volare.
The Volare, right, yeah. A lot of those cars, 10 or so years ago, maybe even less, weren't considered, they were junk. And now they're coming back just like the 75 through 79 Novas have come up in popularity. I think a lot of that is the bodies are coming back first with older engines.
Yep.
And I think you're right. I think the engines now, all the small gear stuff is going to start being revisited.
Well, you know what? These guys are proving the point. Like Dan says that 351 modified and 400s like to crack heads.
Right.
ORC says the oil pump in the 400 modified was garbage. Wild Rose says the most gutless pig he's ever drove was a 351 modified. Here's the thing. If you're building something and you're using an aftermarket oil pump and proven Cleveland heads, who cares? None of that's relevant.
That's right.
Now that smog engine gives you an affordable platform to work off of.
That's right. And, it's one of those things where you go in and you have a lot of options now, not only from the aftermarket, but you also have more information about what's fiction and what's real. Because there's a lot of times you heard stuff that, hey, these things are terrible about doing this because 3 guys had it happen.
Yeah.
There's been whole motors that have been discarded for years because one group of people didn't like them.
Right.
I mean, I think in the Mopar world, pretty much anything outside of 68 to 72 from a lot of guys is frowned upon. And there's some good stuff outside of those years.
Yeah.
But some of the guys that are in the Mopar crowd, if it's just like the Chevrolet guys the same way. The 68 to 72 and it's anything after 72 they think is all junk.
Yeah.
And there's some really good stuff there.
No, I agree. So Danny Boyd is technically correct. I let my lack of fluency in Ford show for a moment. He's absolutely correct.
The 400
And
is not considered a modified. I didn't know that.
now, where's that comment there? Okay, Muscle City Madness, who is Ruben, by the way. Ruben, who's a great guy, but my transmission videos put him to sleep. I have to kid him about that. He says the coolest Mopar movie ever. What movie are you talking about there, Ruben?
Apparently, Lunar said something.
And speaking of movies, so what is your favorite car movie? If I can just ask a random question in here.
Okay, my favorite car movie is probably not even a car movie. My favorite car movie is probably My Science Project, and it's got a blown '68 GTO in it, with a switched blower like in Mad Max.
Huh.
As far as pure car movies go, Cannonball Run or Spaghetti Abandoned.
Yeah.
Any of the first two Cannonball Runs. I mean, I like Two-Lane Blacktop. I like Dirty Larry, Crazy Mary. I think I screwed up the title.
Yeah.
I like that movie a lot. I like all of the old car movies. The original Gone in 60 Seconds with H.B. Halicki.
Yep.
I like that. But I just always got a kick out of My Science Project. It's got the same guy from Christine in it, John Stockwell's in it, and he's got a '68 Pontiac GTO with a 671 blower on it. Pretty cool movie.
Some of my favorite car movies are movies that aren't about cars at all. They're just set in a period of time where you see a lot of cool cars.
That's right.
That's my favorite thing about that show, Chips. Because it was on during the disco era. So if you watch Chips, it was a car show.
That's right. That's right.
And I don't care about what the cops are doing. That's a sweet Firebird sitting there on the street.
That's right. And I grew up in the '80s with all the standard Dukes of Hazzard, Knight Rider.
Oh yeah,
all that stuff. Honestly, I would love to build a truck from the Fall Guy. That would be cool.
By the way, one of our viewers here has a Fall Guy clone. It's beautiful.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Mr. Will, I think is his name. He has a Fall Guy clone. He's usually in here, and it's a gorgeous truck. You'll see it in the. By the way, so we're doing a virtual car show on my channel. If you want to send in some cars for that, we'd love to have them, and we'll have a slideshow on my channel. And then if you want to enter to win a contest, we're going to put the top 12 cars on a calendar. So anyway, you'll see that truck in the car show.
Yeah, Danny Boyd, Turbo 350 versus Turbo 400. The Turbo 400 has about 27 pounds more rotating mass. It does like a pretty good bit more power. I'm not sure how much.
Huh.
But if I remember correctly, the rotating mass by itself is 27 pounds heavier. But I think the Turbo 400 has a little bit better first gear. I can't remember.
I can't remember which it has. I know the Turbo 400 is a stout piece. But you know what's funny is I know two people who have bent the strut rod in a 727 that applies second gear.
Right.
And they both replaced those 727s with TH400s. And I said, the problem wasn't getting rid of your Chrysler and going to Chevrolet, because the Turbo 400 is remarkably similar inside to a 727.
Okay.
I said it was just that strut needed to be reinforced.
Right. And I mean, it's like people that get rid of a 8.2 rear end and go to a 9-inch Ford. I'm like, well, you could have went to an 8.5-inch rear end, and they're really, really strong, but an 8.2 is really, really weak. It's basically like going from a 7 1/4, 8 1/4 car rear end to a Dana 60 when you could have just went to an 8 3/4.
Well, you know what? I need to pick your brain about that a little bit, because I did an LS swap in the third gen Camaro, and the weak point in it is it still has its 10 bolt in the back.
Right.
And so I want to pick your brain a little bit about that, because it's making a lot of power. And we just know that if we were to put some slicks on that thing, we might break an axle or something. So
you're probably going to break the pinion first.
Maybe.
Yeah, because that has a 7.5-inch 10 bolt in it.
Yeah.
And the pinion on it is very small.
Yeah.
So what happens is, and you probably already know this, as you try to the housing flexes a lot.
Yeah.
And as your tires rip, your basically your ring gear tries to pull away from the pinion. And then you get too much when the housing flexes and the ring gear tries to leave against the caps, you get too much space between your pinion and your ring gear, and it'll slip and then lock. It's going to either shred the teeth or actually break the pinion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We used to have a lot of 7.5 Camaros. We'd put a nitrous kit on a Camaro, a third gen Camaro, and they'd bring it back 2 weeks later with a shredded rear end.
It's funny though what they replace and why. Like people talk about the pinion, the 9-inch Ford, 9-inch Ford. A 9-inch Ford. So there's 3 different pinion sizes on an 8 3/4 Chrysler.
Okay.
You've got a 1 3/8, a 1 3/4, and a 1 7/8. Well, a 9-inch Ford. We lost John there for a second. He'll get back in a minute. All right, he coming back. Richard, I did not know that was a deeper gear. But yeah, the 9-inch Ford pinion is the same size as the smallest 8 3/4 Chrysler. What makes them strong is not the size of the pinion. What makes them strong is the placement of the pinion.
I'm not sure if you guys can see me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Let's see.
I can hear you fine. We can see and hear you. We can see and hear you.
I don't know which one of the Johns is here. I know I can see myself. I can see live.
I can see you.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Back. We good? You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we're good. Well, I was just saying.
Did you go away?
I was just saying. No, I don't think I went anywhere. Okay. The 9-inch Ford actually has the smaller pinion than the smallest of the 8 3/4 Chryslers. The strength is in where they located it. They moved it so far down into the ring, it just spread that load out.
That's right.
So people try to use stats to determine what's the strongest, but the stats don't always tell the whole story.
Yeah, and that's the same as like the 12 bolt versus the 8.5-inch 10 bolt. They have the same pinion. The pinion gear is the same size and everything like that. The only difference is the ring diameter is different. You got an 8.5 and 8 3/4.
His computer is in revolt, it looks like. Captain Dew, we'll see you. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Yeah, everything looks good on my end. So, yeah, I think it's a signal thing. He'll be back in here in just a second. Yeah, he's got signal crashing in on him. Tell you what, though, it's been fascinating stuff, though. John tried to get out of this. Yeah, it looks more like an internet thing. I agree with that. We can see and hear you just fine when you're here.
Okay.
Zero says the man is watching. Probably so.
I'm seeing comments. So.
Yeah,
we are back. I'm back.
It looks like your internet
I don't know if it's my end or what.
It looks like your internet's blinking away.
Put the front band on a 727.
Change the band. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, for sure. And good for you for breaking the band. It means you were racing it hard. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, his internet is taking a nosedive, so we'll let you guys come up with any good questions you have for John, and we'll see if he can jump back in, and we'll see what we can do with that. Yeah. Well, that Roadrunner is special. I've been looking at that thing for close to 20 years, just hanging out real close to where I live, and there was just nothing I could do about it. And I finally put that deal together, so it'll be a blast.
I'm back.
You're back. So your internet is rebelling. It does not like this.
I mean, normally I have great internet in the house. That's why I'm not in the shop. But
no, it's just luck of the draw. But I'll tell you what, just in case it's gonna, jump on you. Let's Any of you guys have any great questions here for Shop 209 in the flesh himself? This is a good opportunity to ask a guy who knows a lot of stuff. So,
Bear Rose Garage. Yes, I still have the Henry J. I'm planning on doing a full build on that on the channel. I'm just trying to get all this other junk finished up before I work on that.
Dan, no, I have not looked under that Roadrunner yet. I'm going to do it live with all of you guys. We're going to look inside, underneath, and in the trunk together.
Crazy Coffee Turbo 425. I would love to have an Eldorado front drive transmission, and I would put it in the back of a Nova.
I was going to say somebody's going to do that.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to build a Pantera-esque Nova.
Oh man, that would be cool.
You have to get a TF transmission, and make a rear engine Nova. I've got a lot of Novas, and I'm trying to keep. I will do some other builds on my channel than just Novas. But
you would do a mid-engine so that you don't have to fool with any of the rotational problems, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that would be so cool. You've got to do that.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I've got a few plans. I want to do a twin engine Nova. I want to do 2 engines in a Nova. I want to do a 4-wheel drive Nova. I've got all kind of ideas. So we'll see if we can make it happen.
One bad AMX, I have no idea. I towed it home and it made it in one piece, so it must have some semblance of frame rails. We're gonna find out.
How far did you have to tow that?
Oh, not far at all.
Okay.
Not far at all. But I didn't want to say how far I was moving it until after I saw people freak out that I was towing it with a CRV. I just wanted them to freak out about it.
Yeah.
Ever seen Christmas Vacation? I love Christmas Vacation. I have a clip from Christmas Vacation in a transmission build video. Are you kidding?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Don't tell, whoever distributed that. They might not like that. But it's a short clip for educational purposes. Here's a good question.
Yes. Maybe not that budget Nova, but I am going to put an LS in one of my cars.
So what's the real number? What's the real number on a carbureted LS? Because I don't really know.
As far as price-wise?
Yeah.
If you can find, the problem is, for a while there, you could find in this area, you could find a 5.3 or 4.8 LS, even a 6-liter for $500 or less.
Okay.
And then the 6-liters got real popular, and they were, and then you could still get $500 or $600. You could still get a 5.3. And now it's hard to find a decent 5.3 for less than $1,500.
Okay, so educate me. So the LS swap I did, somebody else, because his vehicle was footing the bill on parts, which is great. I don't have to pay for anything. If I today, let's say I wanted to commit total blasphemy and I wanted to put an LS in a Mopar, right?
Yeah.
What is your recipe? So if I go to the junkyard, what do I look in? Like, see, I don't even know exactly. So do I look in Escalades? Do I look in pickups? What am I looking for most bang for the buck in a junkyard LS?
Okay, I am not a LS professor, so
okay, that's all right.
Years up.
You know a lot more about them than I do.
I've got an air conditioning business. That's what I do for a living, and I've bought a bunch of work trucks from about 2000 up to 2010. I've had a ton of trucks with those LS motors in them, so I've broken a lot of them and broken a lot of trucks in the motors. I've got one with 380,000 miles on it, so they're pretty good motors. I would pick a 2003 to 2007 5.3. That would be the best ones. And I think the later rods are better, but as far as the engines and heads, I think the 03 to 07 motors are better. And probably the stuff out of your Tahoes and Suburbans are probably going to be the better. They probably get parked before some of the trucks do. The trucks usually have more miles on them. In my experience, what I've found, the extended cab trucks, the four-door trucks, usually have more miles on them when they're in a salvage yard than the Tahoes or the Suburbans for whatever reason.
Okay.
Don't know why, but just in the stuff around here, the low mileage stuff is usually in the Tahoes and Suburbans or the Escalades or whatever.
Okay.
And but yeah, you're gonna have $1,000 in a long lock. you're going to have $300 or $400 in a carbureted intake, and then you're going to have a few $100 in a wiring harness, another few $100 in an ignition controller. So you're going to have, you can do it for a lot less. You can cut your own wiring harness up. You can find a better deal on a motor, and you can do fuel injection and use the factory stuff instead of having to buy an intake and carburetor and save even more money. But if you want to get away from fuel injection,
Right.
a couple of people make the carbureted intakes.
Okay, so the carbureted intake. So again, I don't have a feel for it. Are we seeing those at swap meets? Is that how common?
I have seen a couple at swap meets, but they're the same price as they are new. So, you know, that's something that you're going to have to buy new, or you're going to pay about the same money.
Well, I did this LS swap back when it was exotic. I did it a long time ago, back when it was a really exotic thing to do.
And honestly, the reason I haven't done one is because they're so popular now. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be on that bandwagon.
Yeah, do something different.
Right.
Do something different. Take a 305 or a 307 and make it outrun an LS. That'll turn the internet on its ear.
I want to put two straight sixes in line beside each other and follow the cylinder.
Yeah, I want to see that. Yeah, I have no problem with LSs. I mean, I'm not, you know, it's just not my thing. But yeah. So Kurt's saying if you're going to build one from parts and you got your pick of parts, use a 6-liter iron block.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I can see that.
Yeah, they can handle 15, 1600 horsepower, no problem.
Yeah, Mopar Den. He's doing an LA engine and refresh and disc brake conversion. Oh my goodness. I like my drum brakes. I like to start stopping on Thursday to get stopped by the weekend.
Yep. Yeah. Now my buddy Craig has a 73 Challenger. He just completely restored bumper to bumper.
Oh gosh.
He's got a 413 in it that was an industrial motor.
Yeah.
He had to change the crank because it had a different flange on it.
Great engine.
The pump motor had a different flange. And he put that in there, and he's got some aluminum heads on it. And he's having a little trouble with the power band not coming on early enough. So we think we're going to change camshaft in it, but he's pretty happy with that.
Have you seen the 12,000 RPM Nova on YouTube?
I have, and man, that thing, I wince. I can't watch the video without wincing, waiting for it to pop.
That thing screams.
It sounds amazing, but
I love that video. I love that video. And it's funny because I'll see these people in the comments, oh, that's not 12,000. I'm thinking, that's a lot more than you're turning.
Yeah. It sounds like a dang motorcycle is what it does.
I knew a guy who had a Mustang with a 289 or 289 Ford.
Right. And
it turned some unreal RPM. It was over 11,000 they would get that thing. And he said that it had a 650 gear in the back, and it was a 4-speed, and it had a real heavy flywheel, turned a lot of RPM. And anyway, they would change valve springs really frequently and all the stuff you'd expect to do. And then one time they were at Bristol and snapped the crank in half.
Oh, wow.
And just pieces of crank went through the oil pan. He said when an engine that high on RPM blows up, it really blows up.
Oh, yeah.
He said, you're saving the valve covers.
That's right.
They're cool, but they scare me to death, the maintenance and the catastrophic failure on something. But I love the sound of them.
Oh, yeah.
The Holly's the best bang for the buck on an LS. I like a Holly for anything. What's your carburetor of choice?
Holly. I'm not a big fan of Edelbrock carburetors at all.
Yeah. Well, have you seen the new Edelbrock?
Yeah. It's really different.
I thought that was so funny when I saw it. I call it a Hollybrock.
Yeah. And I had a 79 Firebird with 400 in it, and it had an Edelbrock carburetor on there. The guy I bought from put an Edelbrock carburetor on it. And I took it out to the drag strip, and I started running it, and it was laying over at the big end of the track, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And finally, I figured out that the fuel bowl on the Edelbrock was not big enough to supply the engine. The fuel pump couldn't keep up with the fuel bowl. And if you put, I couldn't get a fuel pump that had enough volume without going too far in pressure. I put a Holly on there immediately and solved the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the Edelbrock. There's just it's a good carburetor, I'm sure, but I'm just not a big fan of it.
Well, our resident Holly expert, and I don't use that term lightly. Our,
Right.
our resident Holly expert is Andy Wood, Unity Motorsports Garage. He was here earlier. He says Edelbrocks are okay for the street, but Hollies are, for serious applications.
That's right. That's right. I agree completely. And I think I've watched some of his videos. He's got some good information.
Cement Surfer, you're welcome. We love having this. This has been a wonderful live. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you guys have too.
Oh, I'm having a great time. And I
I'm
haven't
looking
been
at the
live.
viewers, and they're sticking around even through our technology problems. They're staying, so we must be doing something right.
There you go. Yeah, I haven't been live on my channel in a few weeks. I was in the middle of that build, and all of a sudden I started thinking I was having a heart attack. Started getting dizzy, arm going numb, the whole stupid thing. And it turns out my blood pressure is out of control. So I had to take a week or two off and didn't get the build finished to go to Daytona. But I'm feeling better. The doctors got me straightened out. So I'll be getting back on that build pretty hard soon.
Good deal. No Pardin says he sent me a contest entry. So any of you guys that haven't yet done that, you can enter the contest to be on the 2022 calendar. That's great. If you think your car has no chance of winning, that's fine. It will still be in the car show. So go ahead and send your submissions. We'd love to have them. We'd love to have yours too. We'd love to have a Shop 209 entry, both
absolutely.
The calendar or just to the car show, whatever you want to do. Edelbrocks don't leak. Can't say that about a Holly. Well, you know what? That's why they make gaskets. The worst thing about a Holly are the gaskets the fuel bowls come with.
Yeah, because if you I've tried putting chapstick on. I've tried all the tricks to keep them from tearing, and just they're awful. So first thing I do is take them off and put the good gaskets on so I can reuse them.
Well, okay, so there's just standard fare you should do with a Holly. Like there's a lot of Holly. Again, we talked earlier about things that people replace. Like they'll replace a whole transmission when there's just one little weak point they could fix and never have that problem again.
Right.
Carburetors are the same way. I've gotten a lot of Hollies that have had like a warped body. You take them apart, and you true that up.
Yep.
You put it back, and it's fine. But that the way it was running, it had a vacuum leak, and that's why they changed it.
That's right. And see, the same thing with quadrajets. The throttle shaft usually leaks, and if you take the throttle shaft out, put a bushing in it, put the throttle shaft back in, that fixes most of the problems with a Q-jet.
Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right. Those carburetors got a bad rap for that.
Yeah. And look, they have a bog problem, but if you get the rest of the car tuned up pretty good, the bog is usually somewhere else in the tune, not the carburetor.
That's fine. Yeah, the bog thing, there's a lot of cars that have bogs that never optimize their ignition timing.
That's right.
So they're working on their accelerator pumps, pump shots, squirters, and really they needed to get their timing right first.
Yeah.
They'll have like 2 degrees of initial timing.
Or the blades will be so heavy that it won't come in before 4,000 RPM. So.
Yeah, I'm actually I need to do a little troubleshooting on my friend Chevelle. I strongly suspect his advance weights are just seized.
Yeah.
He's not getting any ignition advance at all. And that's just something you have to deal with.
Well, honestly, most people don't understand how ignition timing works as far as the vacuum advance, the, time spark advance port on the carburetor, or to run full manifold vacuum. They don't understand initial advance plus vacuum. And then when you get on the throttle, you lose vacuum. So your vacuum advance goes away. It's a lot of people don't understand that.
Well, it's funny because when I went to trade school, which was now 20 years ago, it's amazing how many hot rodders there did not have a firm grasp of what's going on with fuel, ignition, vacuum, and these simple things. And I admit, there's a lot of things I learned there too. But you would see guys there who supposedly had all of this, built all of this stuff, but they didn't really have a good grasp of the fundamentals of their ignition timing and fuel. And that's the stuff that if I could tell anybody, if there's one thing that would help you is a hot rodder, learn that.
Right. And, that's really my first inclination to the timing was I had that 79 Firebird and I was taking it to the drag strip and I was running it and it wasn't running very good. And I took it to the shop that I ended up working at later. And I'm like, "Hey, can you do this thing up for me?" And he tuned it up, said he got it running better. I took it to the track, and it knocked like 8/10 off the time.
Yeah.
It went from running
Yeah.
14s to 1320s. And like, what you do? He said, all we did was turn the timing up, man. You
Yep.
can't be afraid to put timing in it.
So Blake here is this is by the way, this is Blake from Bad Tree Productions. Preset bog for less wheel spin.
Hey, there you go. That's right. Kill some of that bottom end torque.
Tall John's Fun Shop in the house. Tall John actually he's a good video on setting timing. He's got one of those machines he can do a distributor curve on.
Oh, I'd love to have one of those. Yeah.
Oh, isn't that cool? So
Yeah.
he's got a good video on that. He knows stuff about timing. Bopar Man 78's got a question. He's been relatively quiet tonight. What about using the green O-rings for AC lines on the Hollies in place of those black rubber O-rings? So
come out on the bowl bolts.
That's what I'm thinking. I was thinking which O-rings he's talking about. That would be about the right size.
Yeah, I use the flat blue gaskets. They make a. I use somebody else asked something about the bowl gaskets. I use the blue bowl gaskets, and then I use the flat gasket. It's like using the cork ones, not the blue.
That's like the only kind they should make. They shouldn't even make the cork ones. I don't even know why they do.
Yep.
They are garbage on a stick.
I like them, but they don't last long. Let's put that away. And with the new, it's a lot bigger problem.
One time when I was a teenager, I had a piece of blue goo get in I used a used piece of fuel hose, and I did not know that there was blue silicone in the hose. Who would have ever thought that, right?
Wow.
So the gasoline broke it free, and it goes up through the needle valve and hangs halfway into the bowl, the front float bowl.
Oh, wow.
Well, it was easy enough. It took me 5 seconds to pull that string out of there and change the fuel. Well, not 5, but what took me all afternoon was cleaning the bowl gasket off of the carburetor in the bowl. So
exactly.
I had a hard lesson. When I was sitting there chiseling that stuff on, I said, "What is the worst idea in the world right here?"
Yep. I remember being at the track one time. I was going to change jets, and I had brought 2 carburetors with me. Because I had 2 noses at the time, and I took one off the car I had at the house, left one on the car, went to the track. I ran the first combination, swapped to the other carburetor, and it was an old Barry Grant. I put that one on there. I was going to change jets in it, and I go over there thinking I was working on my other one, and I pulled the bolt off, and I see half a gasket laying there, and I'm like, oh crap! I realized it had the paper gaskets on it, and I was like, I didn't even try. I took the carburetor right back off. I put the other carburetor back on, and didn't try to mess with it because I didn't want to spend an hour scraping that gasket off.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They are the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've learned a few funny things. Like they make the one gasket, with the circles, the power valve, and one that doesn't.
That's right.
You better use that kind of
stuff. Lesson to learn.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff like that. One Bad AMX is asking how I do live about every other week. And I was doing
every Sunday. I was doing them every Sunday, and I'll probably go back to doing them every couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of good quality lives you'll see on YouTube. Muscle City Madness is lurking in here. He does a live every Friday evening, and his is just his are chaos. They're just startup, at 7 p.m. Arizona time on a Friday, and you'll just see a round table of people talk about crazy stuff. And then mine are a little bit more structured. I'll usually have a guest like you will talk about stuff. And everybody has a different style, a different kind of live, but there's lots of good lives.
Absolutely.
Should come to Iowa and buy that. I guess he's talking about me retiring. No, see, the Assault CRV rules.
There you go. I almost bought a 65 Barracuda here in the last few weeks. There was one for $600, just a body, but it got all the glass and all of the body panels, and that's it. But still a pretty good deal.
Max Wedge, Dick Dastardly, Rusnick. I knew somebody would come running to the defense of the Carter / Edelbrock carburetor.
That's
His
right.
haven't been touched for 10 years, and they just need. Well, that's great. That's awesome. And I'll tell you, if I was running a second generation Hemi in a car that I wanted to be very factory looking, that's what I would run.
That's right.
Danny Boyd says goats and full size all got fully opening secondaries.
That's right. Some of them had the block on there to keep the secondaries from opening all the way.
Oh, that's crazy. That is pure craziness.
Yeah,
I don't know where Tony is. Tony drops in on my lives on occasion. Just depends on what he's got. About half the time, he'll jump in for a second.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what. I never like to abuse my guests, so I don't. I mean, I have an evening to get to or whatever. But the energy here is good, so it's just whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I don't ever want to tie my guests up and make them feel obligated to hang out. So we can hang out a while if you guys want to hang out, but otherwise we'll start winding down. I try not to, abuse my guests because hopefully they'll come back sometime. We'd love to have you on again.
I really, really enjoyed this.
This has been a blast.
I was flattered that you asked me to come do it, and then now I've really had a good time. And your guys have asked some good questions here.
Well, I'm hoping that through this, well, first of all, I'll just love having fun with you two. Okay.
That's right.
But second of all, I'm hoping that maybe there are a few viewers here that may not watch Shop 209 and they get to interact with you and will come over and sub to your channel. And I'm just hoping maybe it exposes a different group of viewers, maybe.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, there's been a few guys on here that you've mentioned have good channels. I'm looking forward to checking those out. So
yeah, definitely. For sure. There are some great channels here. Everybody on this screen right here has a good channel.
That's really one of the best things about being a car guy on YouTube is you really feel part of a brotherhood. I mean, it's really cool.
We have a good community here.
Right.
It's a real community. And by the way, not that I'm trying to shamelessly plug anything, but it's a good point to mention this. So I'm working on, and we're getting closer. In fact, we had another meeting today. We're making a lot of progress. But by the end of the year, we plan to announce on New Year's Eve a YouTuber event that I'm working on together with Dallas Brown. And we're going to have drag racing. We're going to have a car show that welcomes everything. So your Nova will look just as at home as the little, perfect factory showpiece, right? So it's a car show for every kind of car. And we're going to have drag racing and all kinds of fun. It's going to be late August, it looks like, 2022. And we'll get a lot of these guys out. They'll be there at this thing. We'd love to have you too.
Cool. What location are you thinking of having?
I can't announce it just yet, but it's going to be somewhere between the middle of Tennessee and the western end.
Okay, gotcha.
So probably between Sykeston, Missouri, which is right above Memphis.
Yep.
And south of Nashville, right in that area.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely driving distance for me.
Oh, yeah, it'll be a blast.
I've had a lot of people ask me, are you in California? Because I guess 209 is an area code there.
Yeah.
It was just the street number of my house growing up. So
yeah. Well, I thought that was when I very first saw that 209, I said, well, 209 is not an area code around here, but this guy's not from up north.
Yeah, it ought to be obvious, right?
Well, it's funny. Like, I've been accused of a lot of things, but nobody's ever accused me of being a Yankee.
There you go. See, my mom was from a few counties over from here, and my dad was from West Virginia.
Oh, what part of West Virginia?
Berwyn, West Virginia.
Okay, yeah. I know that is.
Have you seen the movie October Sky with Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah.
Okay, my dad went to school with that guy while that was happening.
Yeah.
Big Creek High School. So
okay, I'm from Bluefield.
Oh, okay. Yes, you're not far away at all.
It's a small world.
He was in the southernmost part of West Virginia. So.
It's a small world.
Yeah, but it inspired me to plastic in 72 Challenger. I'm gonna give you some advice. If they sell you a 5-gallon kit, put all 5 gallons on, because if you don't, it will not fill off right.
These guys are great. They are just the best. Roger Isbell, if you're wanting to text or send, my email is on that video. So check out that. Check out that. You can send to that email. You probably can text to it too. Nothing is wrong with you guys. Nothing at all. It's not a pejorative. It's just, it's just you're Southerner or you're not. It's just kind of funny. You're either from that corner of the world or you're not.
Right. That's
Nothing
right.
wrong with that. Well, guys, I'll tell you what. This is a good time to wrap up and let our esteemed guest, John from Shop 209, get on with his evening, because I'd love to have him back, and I don't want him to say, "Oh gosh, this was the live where they kept me hog-tied." So we'll let you get on with your evening. So you guys have any other good questions? A good time to ask him. We got a lot of knowledge sitting here. He's got some good questions, good answers for your questions.
And if not, I'll make something up.
That's right. Just make something up. They'll believe it long enough for you to get off here.
Yeah. I told somebody a while back I was going to get a rubber camshaft. It's one that the lift and duration gets bigger as RPM goes up. And he believes me.
It's amazing what people will believe.
Yep.
Yeah, so Max Wedge, Dick Dastardly, Resnick, born in Alabama. Well, there you go. Well, see, I was technically born in West Virginia because that's where the hospital was, but I was born about a mile, about 1 mile from the Virginia state line.
Oh, wow.
I've always been a resident of Virginia, but my birth certificate is Bluefield, West Virginia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Stonewall Jackson was born in what is now West Virginia, but it was Virginia when he was born there.
There you go.
So West Virginia counts differently in that weird regard because of the way it's separated. But that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day.
That's right.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate you all coming out.
Yep. Well, thank you for having me, and thank everybody for commenting and asking questions. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this has been a blast. I'd love to have you back on here sometime. We'll schedule it. Right now, I'm trying to get a lot of the different guests on, and we will come back to some guests, because what'll happen is after I have worked through a lot of guests, by the time we come back to those guests, they'll be working on different stuff. We'll have different things to talk about and different projects, and that's kind of the idea.
Okay, great. Yeah, looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to you working on that Roadrunner.
Yeah, it's coming. So I'm not going to do anything on it, when it's 10 degrees outside, because it does get cold here. But I would say about March, I'm really going to be getting in and getting into the chassis and stuff like that. But anyway, in the very near future, we're going to do the treasure hunt in the car. It will be live. And this is the comment of the night. We'll make it the last West Virginia's seceded because of Virginia's high speeding fines. Well,
absolutely.
I wouldn't. You know what? I don't have anything to refute that. I don't know that isn't true.
And well, you know what? Actually, that's fun, because I've just been researching a few things, because I want to drive a Nova from coast to coast at a high rate of speed. Let's just leave it with that. And one of the places you have to be really careful when you leave New York headed to California is Virginia, because the speeding tickets there are outrageous.
Yes, they are.
So that's the most dangerous place to do any high-speed driving on the Cannonball Run route.
Well, you know what? If you do that, I am greatly looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, because it's going to take me. I'm going to build a car specifically for that, and I'm going to have a friend of mine with me. I've got to do some more research into filming something that may or may not be allegedly illegal.
Yeah.
And then it's one of those things where I've been planning it for a while. I've got some details worked out, but it's going to happen eventually. Just whether or not I can wait 5 years before I post the video or not.
Well, right. So I'm just saying that, when this thing is happening in whatever state of progress, please let us know. I would love to, help promote that and make it a thing. Whatever you can talk about or whatever you can do.
Absolutely. And I've thought about trying to, and I'd have to build a lot bigger following, but I thought about trying to do a coast-to-coast drive event for, just muscle cars.
Cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
maybe
you know,
US Route 50 or something like that.
well, you know, if you're not going to do it at a high rate of speed, or you're going to do it at a leisurely, like let's say you do a recon run at a lower rate of speed,
That's
you
right.
could stop along the way and visit fellow YouTubers as you go.
Absolutely.
Possibility,
Absolutely.
right?
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to let these guys get out of here. Nobody can beat Danny Boyd's comment, so we're going to call it an evening. I appreciate all you guys. I want to thank my mods that were in here. Got Just Mopar Joe and Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage and Fubar. That is my team of mods and not a troll in sight tonight, so thanks a bunch for that. And Blake from Bad Tree Productions. So the mods were here to slap us down any trolls that needed it. But everything was good. I appreciate Mopar Den Super Chat. And I thank our guest. And other than that, I'll see you guys in a little while when we do the treasure hunt in the Roadrunner.
Cool, guys. Appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all a bunch. Take care.
All right, thanks.